Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into Area 51, a place that's basically become a symbol for government secrets and maybe, just maybe, little green men.
Area 51, huh? Yeah, that name just seems to draw people in, even for folks like me who work with classified documents.
It really is kind of a cultural phenomenon, isn't it? Like a blank slate where we all project what we think is going on out in that desert in Nevada.
Absolutely. We've got declassified files, historical accounts, even some pretty out there theories that have really taken off.
And that's exactly why we're here today, right? Separating fact from fiction, digging into the history of Area 51, and figuring out why it's so darn fascinating.
Sounds like a plan. So where do we begin? Well, let's start with what Area 51 really is. A highly classified testing ground for the U.S. Air Force in operation since 1955.
It's not just any old base, though, is it? Super remote, desolate. We're talking smack dab in the middle of the Nevada desert, mountains all around.
Picture a huge, dry lake bed tucked away in a basin and ringed by mountains.
Yeah, it's really hard to get to, and that's by design. That remoteness is key. Makes sense. The perfect spot to do things without anyone knowing.
Right.
Adds to that whole air of secrecy.
Exactly. And then you've got the Janet flights, unmarked planes moving people back and forth between Area 51 and Las Vegas. Even more intrigue, right?
Sounds straight out of a spy movie.
Well, Area 51 and spy stuff, they go hand in hand. We have to think about the Cold War here. The US and the Soviet Union, they were in this crazy race to be top dog in tech.
Both sides just desperate to know what the other was doing, especially in the skies.
Absolutely. The US had to figure out what the Soviets were up to, and they had to do it quietly.
So that's where the U-2 spy plane comes in, right? Developed and tested at Area 51, flying high above those Soviet radar systems.
Exactly. The U-2 could fly over 70,000 feet, way above anything the Soviets could detect back then. Think about the intel they gathered, especially during stuff like the Cuban Missile Crisis.
So they're flying over Cuba, taking those pictures that basically proved the Soviets were putting nukes there.
Imagine yourself, a pilot back then, strapped into that brand new plane. You know that what you bring back could change the world.
Now that's intense.
And the U-2, that was just the beginning. Area 51 was where a bunch of revolutionary aircraft were developed.
Oh, yeah. Like what? Give me some names.
How about the SR-71 Blackbird? A reconnaissance plane, supersonic, could hit Mach 3, over 2,000 miles per hour.
Were they trying to fly faster than the speed of sound?
They were pushing every limit they could, that's for sure. Then there's the A-12OX cart, before the Blackbird, shrouded in even more secrecy.
I'm seeing a trend here. Faster, higher, top secret. What else you got?
The F-117 Nighthawk, can't forget that one, the first stealth aircraft that actually went into service. Crazy angles, materials that absorbed radar, basically invisible to the enemy.
So Area 51 is the birthplace of it all. High-altitude surveillance, stealth tech, some really groundbreaking stuff.
You got it. These projects were huge steps forward for aerospace engineering and for how wars are fought.
But all that secrecy, there's got to be a downside, right? That's where the conspiracy theories come in.
It's human nature, I guess. We want explanations, and when we don't have them, well, we make them up.
And nothing fed those theories like the Roswell incident back in 1947.
Roswell. It's the big one, isn't it? Still fascinates people, still causes debate, even today.
Okay, so for those of us who haven't gone full-on Roswell, what exactly happened?
So summer of 47, a rancher near Roswell, New Mexico, finds some weird stuff on his land. Metallic pieces, strange materials. The military, they actually put out a statement saying they recovered a flying disc.
A flying disc, come on.
But then things changed. The military took back their statement, said it was just a weather balloon. Of course, everyone started wondering what was really going on.
I can imagine. Cold War paranoia, and then you're told there's nothing to worry about.
Exactly. That's how some debris in a field became this whole thing about what the government's hiding at Area 51.
Makes sense, right? Area 51's this super hush-hush place pushing the boundaries of tech. The connection seems obvious.
Absolutely. They wouldn't tell people anything about what was going on at Area 51, and then Roswell happens. That's basically a recipe for conspiracy.
So we've got a top-secret base, Cold War tensions, and then a confusing incident with totally different explanations.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, Area 51, it's not just about the tech or what the government says. It's about the people who say they've seen things there, things that don't make sense.
Oh, I'm definitely interested.
But
Tell me about these people.
one of the most famous is Bob Lazar. Back in 1989, he said he'd been hired to work at a place called S4, close to Area 51.
Bob Lazar, huh? I'm guessing he wasn't just fixing leaky faucets.
His story was pretty wild. He said S4 was all about reverse engineering alien spacecraft. He described crazy tech like anti-gravity propulsion and a power source he called Element 115.
Wait a minute, element 115, that's Moscovium, right? That wasn't even created until years after Lazar said all this.
Exactly. And what we know about Moscovium, it doesn't line up with what Lazar said about it as a power source.
So there are some holes in his story. But even if you're skeptical, you got to admit he tapped into something. People are fascinated by the idea of alien tech.
No doubt. And even if you don't believe Lazar, his story makes you think, right, what is the government keeping secret? What's going on that we're not supposed to know about?
Makes you realize you got to be a little skeptical. But maybe there's more out there than we think.
It's all about balance, you know,
Yeah.
thinking critically, but also realizing there are things we just don't know. What's your take on Lazar's story?
What gets me is how he talks about these technologies.
Hmm.
Anti-gravity, element 115, and it just makes you wonder if we've only just begun to understand what's scientifically possible.
And that sense of wonder, that curiosity about the unknown, that's what's made Area 51 so captivating.
It's true. Area 51 is everywhere in pop culture. Movies, TV shows, video games. It's a symbol for government secrets, maybe even alien contact.
Think about Independence Day, that scene with Area 51, the aliens, or the X-Files, how they blurred the lines between reality and science fiction. They made you question what's real.
And then there was Storm Area 51 back in 2019. Millions of people saying they were going to raid the base to see them aliens.
It took over the internet. This super secret base turned into a meme. Just shows how much Area 51 has captured our imaginations.
Okay, so we've gone from Cold War Area 51 to conspiracy theories to how it's portrayed in movies and TV. This place really has a hold on us, doesn't it? But what about today? Are there any more modern theories or concerns?
Good question. Technology is moving faster than ever, and so are the theories about Area 51. It's not just about aliens and UFOs anymore.
So what are people saying now? What's the next Area 51 mystery?
There's this idea that Area 51 is where they're developing stuff that could change the future. Advanced surveillance tech, cyber warfare defenses, even wild new ways to power spacecraft.
Wow, next level stuff. But that raises some ethical questions, right? If they're developing all this in secret, what does it mean for privacy, for global security? What about how wars are fought?
Those are big questions that we have to think about. Just because we can create new technology doesn't mean we should.
And we can't forget about the environment either. All this top secret activity, what's it doing to the planet?
You're absolutely right. There have been lawsuits from people who worked at Area 51 saying they were exposed to toxic waste. And there are worries about what testing's doing to the desert out there, especially water usage. Water's precious in that part of the world.
It's the same problem, isn't it? National security versus being open and honest and doing what's right.
And that's what makes Area 51 so fascinating. It's not just about hidden tech or aliens. It forces us to think about these really tough issues, our relationship with technology, secrecy, and the things we think are possible.
I hadn't thought of it that way before. It's more than a place, it's like a mirror reflecting our hopes and fears.
Exactly. It makes us ask, what else is out there? What's hiding in the shadows?
It really does make you think. Can't wait to learn more about Area 51. This is one deep dive I won't forget anytime soon. So last time, we were talking about Bob Lazar and his crazy stories about alien tech at S4. Are there other people out there claiming to have been on the inside at Area 51?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Over the years, quite a few folks have come forward, each adding a little piece to the Area 51 puzzle. One story that really stands out is from this retired aeronautical engineer. Wants to stay anonymous, though.
Anonymous sources, huh? Always adds a little extra intrigue. What this engineer have to say?
He claims he worked on these super top secret projects, stuff involving propulsion systems and energy sources, things the public doesn't even know exist, like way out there.
Wait, hold on. Is he saying they were using, like, alien stuff they found?
He was kind of vague about it, you know, but he hinted at breakthroughs in things like anti-gravity propulsion and harnessing energy from, well, stories we haven't even begun to understand. He talked about discoveries that could change everything we know about physics and engineering.
Okay, that is pretty wild.
Yeah.
But Area 51 has been the birthplace of some pretty insane technological leaps, so I guess anything's possible, right?
It's tricky, isn't it? Part of you wants to just say, come on, that's ridiculous. But then you think about what we know about Area 51. What seems impossible one day might be real the next.
It's that whole truth is stranger than fiction thing, but amplified when you're talking about Area 51.
For sure. And those insider accounts, even the ones that sound crazy, they just add to the mystery of it all. Like, each story is another layer of this puzzle we're trying to figure out.
Totally. So we've got the alleged insiders, but what about the people who've actually been there? Or at least tried to get close, hoping to see something, out of the ordinary. What kind of stories are they telling?
Area 51, it's super well guarded, as you might imagine. Fences, signs, cameras, the whole 9 yards. But some people, they just got to try and get a peek.
Yeah, I've seen those signs on the extraterrestrial highway. Not exactly inviting.
Yeah.
Have there been any successful attempts to, get past all that security?
There have been reports, people saying they made it through the outer layers. Hard to say if they're true or not, though.
I can imagine. And
Yeah.
even if you got past that first line of defense, wouldn't the consequences be pretty serious?
Oh, yeah, big time. Fines, getting arrested. They might even use force. It's not a joke. Those security measures are there for a reason.
Got it. So what about those who decide to play it safe and just observe from a distance? What are they seeing?
Tons of reports about strange lights, aircraft that can't be identified, all near Area 51. And the descriptions, they get pretty detailed. People talking about objects zipping around at crazy speeds, making turns that shouldn't be possible, like they're breaking the laws of physics.
Okay, now that's getting interesting. I think I'd be reaching for my tinfoil hat if I saw something like that.
It's tempting to jump to aliens, right? Especially with Area 51. But we gotta remember, they've tested some of the most advanced aircraft ever made out there, stuff that's never been seen before.
So you're saying some of these UFOs, maybe they're just super secret military tech,
Hmm.
so advanced that it looks alien to us regular folks.
Exactly. Problem is, we just don't have all the information. Without knowing everything that's going on at Area 51, it's impossible to know for sure what people are seeing.
Right, kind of like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. But there's something about that mystery, isn't there? Not knowing keeps things interesting.
Oh, absolutely. It's that gap between what we know and what we don't know that keeps our imaginations going. It's what makes Area 51 so fascinating to talk about.
Okay, so we've got insider accounts, we've got UFO sightings, but what about those stories that blur the lines between fact and fiction? Any that come to mind?
Oh, yeah, plenty of those floating around. One that's always kind of creeped me out is the story of Project Abigail.
Project Abigail. Okay, that sounds ominous. Tell me more.
This story's been making the rounds online for years. It's usually told as a warning, a secret experiment gone wrong. It's about this young woman, Abigail Wester. Her father supposedly worked at Area 51 as a scientist.
And what happened to Abigail?
The story goes that she became part of these horrible experiments, exposed to all kinds of stuff, trying to make her stronger, smarter, all that.
Enhancement experiments. Sounds like a sci-fi horror movie.
Right. But it gets worse. According to the story, these experiments, they messed her up, turned her into this, well, basically a monster.
Hold up, this is getting really disturbing.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to this Project Abigail?
That's where things get murky. Project Abigail has all the signs of an urban legend, told and retold so many times, it's hard to know where it started. There's no real proof that any of it happened.
So probably just a made-up story.
Most likely. But even if it's not real, it plays on our fears, right? What if the government is doing these crazy experiments? What if they're messing with things they shouldn't be?
It's like our worst nightmare about what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Pushing science too far, crossing ethical lines.
Exactly. It's a reminder that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
And that's something that comes up again and again with Area 51. It's not just about the tech or the secrets. It's about what happens when those things clash with what's right and wrong.
You nailed it. Area 51, it makes us ask some hard questions. How much power should the government have? What are the limits of science? And what happens when ambition goes unchecked?
Okay, so we've got insider accounts, we've got UFO sightings, creepy urban legends. What about the legal stuff? Have there been any actual court battles over Area 51?
Oh, absolutely. Area 51 has been at the center of a bunch of legal fights. Everything from public access to worker safety to the environment.
Let's start with worker safety. We talked about the toxic waste stuff earlier. Have there been any lawsuits from people claiming they were hurt while working at Area 51?
Yeah, back in the 90s, a group of people who used to work there filed a lawsuit. They said they were exposed to dangerous materials, that the working conditions were unsafe. They accused the base of doing things like burning chemicals out in the open, putting their health at risk.
That's pretty serious. What happened with the lawsuit?
It turned into a big legal battle. The government used this thing called state secrets privilege to keep information about Area 51 from being made public.
Wait, so they're saying that even talking about what happens at Area 51, even in a case about worker safety, could put national security at risk?
Exactly. And this whole fight between wanting to know what's going on and keeping things secret, it comes up all the time with Area 51.
Makes you think. How do you balance keeping secrets with people's right to get justice or hold the government accountable?
It's a tough question, one that courts have been struggling with for a long time. In that worker safety case, the government saying it was state secrets, that basically shut the whole thing down.
That's pretty messed up. Even when it comes to national security, you can't just ignore people's health and safety.
You're right. There has to be a balance. Just because it's about national security or new technology doesn't mean it's okay to hurt people.
Okay, worker safety is one thing. What other legal issues have come up with Area 51?
There have been fights about who can go on the land and in the airspace around the base. The government's got all these rules about who can go where, but people are always testing those limits.
Makes sense. It's like a giant challenge for the Area 51 obsessed.
Exactly. People have been arrested for trespassing, and there have been lawsuits challenging how much the government can expand that security perimeter.
So it's this back and forth, right? Those who want to keep everything top secret versus those who think the public deserves to know what's going on.
It's a battle that's not going away anytime soon. As long as Area 51 is there, as long as it's shrouded in mystery, people are going to keep pushing, wanting answers, and challenging the limits of secrecy.
It's not just the U.S., though, is it? We've been focused on Area 51, but other countries have their own secrets, their own shadowy places.
Oh yeah, for sure. Area 51 might be the most famous, but it's not the only one. Countries all over the world want to be the best, militarily and technologically. That's led to this whole network of secret facilities, each with their own stories, controversies, and mysteries we haven't figured out yet.
Okay, let's take a trip around the world then, shall we? Where should we start?
If we're looking for something like Area 51, a good place to start would be Kapustin Yar in Russia.
Kapustin Yar. That name rings a bell, but I can't quite place it. What's the deal with this place?
It was set up back in 1946, and it's been a center for all sorts of military testing. Anti-aircraft missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and even more out-there aircraft tech.
Out there aircraft tech, you say. Now you've got my attention. Are we talking like stealth planes, but Russian style? Or maybe advanced drones?
Hard to say for sure. Just like with Area 51, Kapustin Yar is all about secrecy. But the rumors are out there, lots of reports of weird lights and UFOs near the base, leading to all sorts of speculation.
So it's basically Russia's Area 51, complete with UFO sightings and whispers of tech that we can only imagine.
That's a good way to put it. And it shows something we talked about earlier, wanting to be the best in tech and in the military. It's not just a U.S. thing. It's happening all over the world. It's driven by ambition, fear, and this desire to do things that have never been done before.
It makes you realize there's so much happening behind the scenes, stuff we may never fully understand.
It's true. And that can be exciting and kind of scary at the same time.
Okay, so we've got Russia's Kapustin Yar. Where else should we go on our global tour of secrecy?
If we switch gears from fancy aircraft to, well, the scary stuff, biological and chemical warfare, we can't forget about Porton Down in the UK.
Porton Down. I've definitely heard of that one. Wasn't there some controversy about it a few years back?
Yeah, in 2018, there was a lot of public anger about experiments that happened at Porton Down, stuff that happened a while back, specifically exposing soldiers to nerve agents.
Wow, that's dark. Those Cold War experiments really make you question what's right and wrong. How far is too far when it comes to national security?
That's a question that hangs over a lot of these secret places. Trying to get knowledge, trying to gain power, it can lead to some tough decisions that people still debate today.
There's a lot to think about.
Mhm.
Okay, we've got Russia's Kapustin Yar, the UK's Porton Down. Who else is playing in this global game of secrets?
We can't leave out China. Their tech is advancing so quickly, their military is getting stronger, and they're definitely no strangers to keeping secrets when it comes to their military capabilities.
Are there any specific places in China that stand out?
One that comes to mind is Lop Nur, out in Xinjiang. It was a nuclear testing site back in the day.
Nuclear testing. That's intense. What are they doing there now?
Details are hard to come by, naturally, but the word is that they're working on space tech and other advanced systems.
Space tech. Okay, now that's really intriguing. What are they building? What are they trying to achieve?
Those are the million-dollar questions that intelligence agencies all over the world are trying to answer. China's space program is no secret, and whatever's happening at Lop Nur is probably a big part of that.
So it's like another space race, but happening in the shadows, away from the public eye.
And that's something we're seeing more and more. As technology gets more advanced and the competition between countries gets more intense, it's getting harder to know what's real and what's hidden.
It's both fascinating and a little bit scary, isn't it? Makes you wonder what else is out there. What other secrets are we not supposed to know about?
That's the question, right? The more we learn about these secret places all over the world, the more we realize how much we don't know.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, only to find another layer underneath. And the further you go, the more questions you have.
And that's the thing about secrecy. It's meant to keep things hidden, but it often ends up making people even more curious.
I guess the more you try to hide something, the more people want to figure it out.
You got it. And with places like Area 51 that need to know the truth, to understand the unknown, it's a powerful thing.
This has been quite a journey so far. From the Nevada desert to Russia, the UK, and China, we've uncovered this whole secret network, all driven by ambition and the need to be on top.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, so many more questions to ask.
I'm ready for more. Let's keep going. It's been quite the deep dive so far, hasn't it? Area 51's Cold War beginnings, secret facilities all over the world. We've covered a lot. But now I'm kind of curious, what about the people who actually live near Area 51? All this secrecy, this advanced tech, what's it like for them?
It's easy to get caught up in the big picture, the global stuff, but you're right. We can't forget about the folks living right there next to this mysterious base.
Yeah, we talked about Rachel, Nevada a little bit earlier. That town's basically become the face of Area 51 and the whole alien thing.
Rachel, it's tiny, just over 50 people, right there on the extraterrestrial highway, practically Area 51's neighbor.
So imagine this. You're driving down this lonely highway, and then boom, a sign that says, "Welcome to Rachel population. Humans 54. Aliens."
That's Rachel.
Nah.
They've totally embraced the whole Area 51 thing, turned it into a spot for UFO fans and anyone who wants to see what's up.
So it's like a pilgrimage for the believers,
Yeah.
right? The ones who
Right.
think there's more going on than the government's telling us.
Exactly. And they've turned it into a way to make a living. Shops selling alien stuff, restaurants with alien burgers, even tours around the base.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Area 51's created a whole subculture, a community bonded by this fascination with the unknown.
It really has. It shows you the power of mystery, how much we humans want to explore the things we don't understand.
But I gotta imagine it's not all fun and games, right?
Yeah.
Living next door to a top-secret military base, one that's become this magnet for attention, there's gotta be some downsides.
Oh, definitely. It's complicated, the relationship between Area 51 and the people who live around there. The base brings jobs, helps the economy, but there's also this feeling of unease, like living in the shadow of something you can't quite figure out.
Like living next to a giant question mark.
And it's not just in your head, you know. There have been arguments about the land over the years, people worried about the government making the base bigger, maybe taking over their property.
That makes sense. And then there's the environment, right? All those allegations about toxic waste, the potential damage to the desert.
Exactly. If you live near Area 51, you live with those worries. What's happening behind those fences? Could it be affecting my health, the land I live on? You just don't know.
So it's like a smaller version of all the big issues we've been talking about. Science and progress versus what it costs the environment and the people who live nearby.
You got it. It shows that we need to find a balance. We can't just think about national security or how cool the tech is. We have to think about people and the planet.
It's a good reminder. Even when we're trying to solve the mysteries of the universe, we can't forget about what matters most, taking care of our planet and each other.
Well said.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into Area 51, one thing that really sticks with me is this push and pull between keeping things secret for national security and the public's right to know what's going on. It's a battle that's been going on for decades.
It's a big challenge for any democracy, and Area 51 is right at the center of it. Sure, some things need to be kept secret to keep the country safe. But too much secrecy, it makes people distrust the government, and it can lead to all sorts of crazy theories.
Exactly. The more you try to hide something, the more people think you're covering up something huge.
That's the irony of secrecy. It's meant to protect information, but it often ends up making people even more curious, more suspicious.
It just shows how important it is to be open and honest. Even when you're dealing with sensitive stuff, if you want people to trust you, you got to keep them in the loop.
Absolutely. Finding that balance between secrecy and transparency, it's tough. But it's something we have to figure out, especially in a world where tech is changing everything so fast, and the line between what we know and what we don't know is getting blurrier every day.
Well said. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Area 51. It's been quite a ride, full of surprises and things that make you go,
We've looked at its history, dug into the conspiracy theories, and talked about the ethics and the environmental concerns that come with a place like this.
But even after all that, the mystery of Area 51 is still alive and well.
And maybe that's part of what draws us to it. The unknown, it'll always fascinate us, make us wonder, and make us want to know more.
Whether you believe in alien autopsies or super advanced spy planes, Area 51 makes us ask some big questions. What are the limits of government secrecy? How much should we trust what we're told? What does it mean to live in a world where powerful technologies are being developed in secret?
Those are questions that don't have easy answers, but they're questions worth thinking about, especially now, with technology changing so fast and the world facing so much uncertainty.
And who knows? Maybe someday we'll learn more about what really happened at Area 51, and it'll change how we see the world. Until then, the mystery lives on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Area 51.